This is section 481111 on Loop 289 around Lubbock. You can see all the delineators and the signs are in order. Back of our sharp sign is down there a piece. Right there, right by the traffic monitoring installation. It's looking relatively southward, although this is a loop, but that can be considered south. There's the material sampling. This is going to be interesting. The battery says it's going dead. I want to let it die out, so bear with me. I may have to change the battery midway. As you can tell from looking down this section, the primary distress is bleeding. I've indicated there's roughly the entire pavement lane is bleeding, with the exception of possibly a couple tenths of a meter on the center line there. So it's at 3.5 meters wide. The lane is actually 3.65, I believe. We do have a transverse crack about every 30 to 40 feet, and as you can see on many of these, it's a toss-up as to whether it's low or moderate severity. This one here I've labeled as moderate because of some of the random cracking associated with it. Although very minor random cracking, it does have some, and a fair amount of spalling. Similarly, I've indicated that this is a moderate severity transverse crack, although right on the border there. Station 1 there. Another crack that I've labeled as moderate severity, although very marginal. You can see there's quite a bit, quite a bit of depression associated with these cracks. You can see a little bit better when looking down the road. Fairly notable depression, quite a bit of spalling, a little bit of weed growth, random cracking. Now as we get through the section, some of these are a little less dramatic, although like I said, those I don't consider these very dramatic either, but they do fit within the moderate description. Again, here you can see the random cracking associated with transverse cracks and spalling. Right here at the crack just short of station 2. We do also have some longitudinal cracking, very low severity, that leads into some, we've got a couple low severity transverse cracks, very tiny ones that Y off of a crack that extends across the entire lane that I considered moderate severity, although you may not even be able to see the random cracking. There is quite a bit associated with the crack that goes the entire lane width, and then a little bit more longitudinal cracking. Bleeding does tend to mask quite a bit of the distress. It's another moderate. Here is a better example of the random cracking. Again, they're right there on the border between low and moderate severity, but I had to consider them moderate. And pick that up in the film, but they definitely are depressed as well. Station 3. Cracks start to get a little bit further spaced apart. What I consider starting to fringe back into the low severity, not as much random cracking nor as much spalling. Station 4. Lost the battery there. Let's see if we can't find it from here. Again, this is loop 289. We're in Lubbock County on the loop around Lubbock, Texas. We're in the what I consider the northbound lanes, although like I mentioned earlier, it is a loop. And all the delineators and signs and markings are in real good shape. As you can see, the primary distress here is bleeding. I need to try and remember to check when I get back what the friction numbers were, but just from looking at it, you can see it definitely is a fairly slick appearance. I've labeled it as moderate severity bleeding, however, you can still see that there's aggregate in it, and there's no tire prints or anything to indicate that there's an extremely high quantity of free asphalt. But looking over it, it looks very shiny in appearance. Back to the south. And to the north. And with that, I'll conclude the video here for section 481111 on loop 289 in Lubbock, Texas.